first section for this week, it's on 2.1, okay, which is inequalities and graphing. So the idea is we're going to be kind of doing like you did in the warm-up, solving equations, except instead of an equal sign, you're going to have one of the four symbols we just talked about. All right. So we did all these in the warm-up. So now you want to make sure you put them on your reference sheet, on your guided notes. So our four inequality symbols, we have the less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So that was two ways we said we could do that symbol. Less than, fewer than.
And guys, like we did with like the what do we call it, the survival guide at the beginning. We'll give you today we'll give you a sentence, like a number, blah 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 is greater than whatever, and you have to translate it into an inequality. So that's why these terms are really important. And again, we'll try to get that chart. We'll try to get that on your reference sheet for you as well. We might even put that on your reference sheet. It'll say 2.1 from the notes. Copy that down.
Okay, so here's a different one. We didn't say this one. Is no more than. It is no more than. So if I said to you something like, I have no more than $10 on me. I have no more than $10. What that means is I could have up to $10, but I don't have more than that. I could have $9, $8. I could have $10 or less. $10 or less. If I said to you, I have at most $10 on me, it's exactly the same thing as saying I have no more than $10. Right? I have at most $10 I could give you. Right? That means I've got 10 or less. So the third symbol, that's our greater than. Okay. We could also say more is more than. So if I said to you like x is greater than y, you could write something like that. X is more than y means the same thing. And then the last one, we've got a couple new phrases there that we didn't go over. We've got is no less than. So if I said something like, you can be no less than 4 feet to go on the ride. Some rides have like a sign, you have to be this tall. So if I said to you, you can be no less than 4 feet tall, that means you have to be at least 4 feet, or you could be taller. Okay? At least, right? You need to earn a grade of at least 60 to pass. At least means you don't have to get exactly 60 to pass. You could get 65, 70, 80, 90, but you need at least a 60. So any number 60 or higher. Okay? So any questions on those four inequality symbols? Okay. So what we're going to try to do now is take a sentence and translate it into an inequality. So in math, that's a sentence. Okay, our sentence is a little different than English, right? They have more numbers in them. But usually when we do this, there's going to be a variable. A lot of times they'll tell you what variable to use. If they don't, you can pick any letter you want. Generally, if the problem is a word problem, we try to pick a letter that makes sense. So if the problem is about like books, maybe you'd use B. Just, whatever letter makes sense. X is a common letter we use. All right. So this says a number W minus 3.5. Let's just look at that part. In fact, if you want to really focus on what you need to look at, it's right there. W minus 3.5. Okay. Anybody tell me how I would write that with symbols rather than writing it out like that? W minus 3.5. Yep, Ellie?
W is greater than 3.5? Or would it be less than 3.5?
We're not going to see that symbol till later on.
Oh, okay.
So this first part doesn't use a less than or a greater than, that part in the box. Just W minus 3.5. How would we write that without any words in it? Yep.
W minus 2.5.
Yeah, just the minus symbol. W minus 3.5. Now we have is less than or equal to. All right. So now I need an inequality symbol. I mean, it's the less than or equal to because that's what it says. But can someone just tell me how to draw that one? Like which way does it point? Should I point it left or should I point it to the right? Yep.
Are you talking about the point part?
Yeah. Well, let's say which side is the point part on?
Left.
Yeah, the point part is on the left. So if you think of it as like an arrow, it's pointing to the left. It's opening to the right, however you want to think of it. Now, less than or equal to. So what do I have to add to that symbol?
Of the line.
Yeah, put the little line under it. So now we've got W minus 3.5 is less than or equal to. And now we need something that goes on the other side. Well, there's only one thing left. What's going to go on the other side? -2. Now, all they said to do was write each sentence as an inequality. We don't have to solve it. If we were going to solve it, does anybody know the one thing you would do to both sides? It'd be the same thing you would do as if that were an equal sign. Yep.
Add 3.5.
That would be it. That's all you'd have to do. Just add 3.5. But they did not say to do that, so for this problem, we're going to hold off. We're not going to do it. Any questions on that one? Okay, let's look at B. A number n is no less than 5. Okay, what's the first thing in that sentence that's important? Yeah, Gigi? N. So a number n is no less than 5. So sometimes what I do is I check it off once I use it. So I'm like, okay, I use the n. Is no less than. Okay. What inequality symbol is that when you have no less than? Like if I said to you, I have no less than $5. No less than $5. Yeah.
Greater than or equal to.
Right. No less than. If we go down, there it is. That's the one we just used. No less than means greater than or equal to. And that's a little weird to say it that way sometimes. But it's kind of like if someone, if I sent you to the store and you said, well, how many bolts you need? Don't get me less than 10. Right? Don't get me less than 10. That means if you go to the store, get me at least 10. 10 or more. But don't get me less than 10. Okay? So, just a different way to say it. So, greater than or equal to. So, we've got, that was that part. We just did that whole box. And n is no less than what number? 5. There you go. So n is greater than or equal to 5. Now this one, if they asked you to solve it, well, it's already done. Right? The variable is already by itself. There's nothing with it. So there's really nothing you'd even solve for here. Okay, let's look at this one. A number x times 13 is at most 8. Okay, so as we read through that sentence, what's the first thing there that's important? X, absolutely. That's the very first thing. So let's write it down. It says x times 13. So what operation are we going to be doing with the x and the 13? So now, yeah. So if we're writing it exactly the order it reads, we can do it like that for now. X times 13. So we did that. We did that. Is at most. There's another phrase we've seen. Is at most. All right. So if I said to you, like, to get the student discount, you can be at most 18. Right? You can't be older than 18. You can be 18 or younger. So what inequality symbol is at most? Chris?
Less than or equal to.
Exactly. Is at most less than or equal to. And he looked it up on his notes, which is perfect. So he's just looking up what
You guys,
we're
we'll
looking
give that
at.
chart on your reference sheet as well for Friday.
And is at most what? I gotta have something on the other side. 8. Now, that's fine. You can leave it like that. That's perfect. But when we do x times 13, does anyone remember how we normally write that? Yeah?
13.
Yeah, we normally put the number first. It wasn't worded that way in the sentence. So if you put that on a test, you're good. If you do what Mary just said, 13x, that's perfect too. Either way, it's the same thing. Any questions on that? All right, so Mr. White's going to go through solutions, and when you get into solutions, we don't always just write it like an equation. Sometimes we draw it. So he's going to show you how to draw it out.
So guys, on your notes you have a couple of blanks, right? So I think you want to write in solution of an inequality. Remember, a little like Pac-Man or alligator, if you have the little like signs going over in the warm-up. If you have those, that means the problem you're doing is an inequality. If you have an equal sign like we did last week and the week before, that means you're doing an equation. All right? So a solution of an inequality is a value that makes an inequality true. So basically what we're going to give you here is, guys, we're going to give you, we'll say, a certain letter equals a certain number. And we're going to ask you if it's a solution set. All right? So the set of all solutions that makes the inequality true is called the solution set. Right? So we're going to give you, in this case, we're going to give you a number, and we're going to ask you if it's a solution to that particular inequality. Right? So you have that second blank there below it, so you want to fill that in with solution set. And sometimes the solution set can be a whole range of numbers. In this case, we're just going to give you one number and see if it works. All right? So example 2 says, tell whether -4, so tell what, so we're going to do -4 for both of these, all right? Remember back when we did like the survival guide, right? When we plug in a number for a letter. What's that process called? Anybody remember? We plug in I'm going to plug in a number here for a letter. Anybody remember what that's called, or what the directions might say? Matt?
Substitution.
We are going to substitute, right? But again, sometimes it might say simplify. For a type of a problem where I have to plug in a number for a letter. What's that called? Starts with an E. Evaluate, right? So I know it doesn't say that here, but that's what we're doing. We're evaluating. See if it works. All right? So tell whether -4 is a solution of each inequality. So when I rewrite this inequality, what shouldn't be there? Everything else is going to stay the same. What one thing shouldn't be there?
X.
X is not going to be there, right? Bethany, what's taking the place of X? So everything else is going to stay the same. I can bring my plus down, I can bring my 8 down, I can bring my inequality sign down, I can bring my -3 down. What's taking them? I'm evaluating now, right? So what's taking the place of X? -4. That's all I'm doing. -4. And again, now when you get to this point, guys, don't overthink it. You don't have to move anything around. Again, at this point, there's no more variables. There's no more letters. So I know some of you guys are going to say, well, I got to add 4 here and add 4 on the other side. No. When we're doing this, you don't have to. All you got to do is just, again, on one side we can combine like terms. On one side we're done. Just do the math. Don't overthink it and do too much. All right? So what 2 things, Miguel, can I add? What two things can I combine
You can
that are on the same side?
minus 8.
So I get -4 and a +8, right? When I do that, what do I get?
You get 5
Say again.
I don't know.
Not sure? Okay. Read it again. Which number is bigger, 8 or 4?
8
8's bigger, right? Is 8 positive or negative?
positive.
That means your answer is going to be positive as well, right? Like we've been saying. Read it from the bigger to the smaller. 8 minus 4.
4.
4. You know, I just did the arithmetic that was there. I don't have to move anything around. I just do the arithmetic that's there. All right. So this one, Alex, what does this say?
4 is less than
4 is less than
negative 3.
-3. Is that a true statement? 4 is less than -3. So for this one, the answer would be no. -4 is not a solution for this inequality. That would not fit in the solution set. It wouldn't work. All right? I'll leave that. I know some people are still copying it down. Now this one, same thing. Evaluate. We know that means we're going to plug in a number for a letter. So Chris, if I was going to write that out, I'll give you guys a second. I'll give you a second to write it down. If I was going to write this out, what would it look like? I'm evaluating now, right? I'm using the same number I used in example A.
-4.5 times -4.
What's something I could use to show multiply? Besides the dot. So I can show that the two numbers are parentheses, right? And I want to put -4 in parentheses, right?
Yep.
No more x. Bring everything else down. Everything else I didn't use, I'm just going to bring down. Now, -4.5 and -4. What I don't care about the number. We can do that on a calculator if I'm not sure. But is my result or my answer going to be positive or negative? Ellie?
Negative?
No.
What?
Positive, right?
Oh.
I'm doing a negative times a negative. That's the only way I can get a positive. All right? I'm going to use my calculator. -4.5 times -4 equals. Is that right, Mr. Hager?
No.
No. Let me use.
18.
Is it 18?
Yeah.
18.
I don't know what happened, guys. It's the wrong button.
Yeah, and again, on that type of a calculator, it's a little bit more difficult to do negatives. And if you have the big, like the blue ones that I have downstairs, you just punch in a negative. All right. So I got 18. Nathan, what does that say? If I was going to read that aloud, what does that say?
18 is less than -21.
Remember, whatever the alligator is eating is greater than. So say it again. 18.
18 is greater than -21.
Is it, Nathan, is that a true statement? Is 18 greater than -21?
No.
How many people say 18 is greater than -21? How many people say? How many people disagree? Nathan, you good now?
Yeah.
I know this number, 21, the number itself, but I ignored the sign. 21 itself is bigger than 18. But again, the higher the number, the higher the negative number, the less value it has. If I had like -0.5 bigger than -1. So I got -0.5 or half greater than -1,263,152. Is that a true statement? How many people say yes? It is. Why, Joe? Yeah. Again, the closer the negative number is to 0, the more value it has. The further away it is, like this one's really far away. The further away it is, the less value it has. So the closer a negative number is to 0, the more value it has. The further away it is, the less value it has. Right? Like I said, I know this one's 21's bigger than 18, but it's got the negative. Alright? That was it for those, right? Alright. Okay. So, again, stuff we're going to do today. So we've done, so again, we had you translate, right? We gave you a number x is less than 5. So we've done translating, right? We just did the solution set, right? We'll give you a number, you have to plug it in and see if it works as a solution for that inequality. Now, we're actually going to graph that. Again, this graphing is important from now to the rest of the week. I think we do inequalities next week as well, right, Mr. Hager? I think so. I'm not sure. So, like this part right here, this is going to stick with us for a while. All right? Being able to graph it. It's actually pretty easy. So the graph of an inequality, we talked about solution set, right? When we graph it, whatever direction our line's going to go, all the numbers in that direction work as a solution. You could plug in any number from that range of numbers, that would work. All right? So again, before we just gave you one number to see if it works. All right? Now we're going to show you, we're going to graph it, and you have to know that any number I pick from that range of numbers, if I plugged it into that particular inequality, it would work as a solution. All right? So, on your notes, right, you have when graphing inequalities. You want to make sure it's in the form of, you want the letter first, then the sign, then a number at the end. All right? So you want like x. Again, there's your letter, one of those signs, number at the end. We may give you one where the number is on the left-hand side and the letter's on the right-hand side. Something like this. You don't have to write this down. Something like that. The steps we're giving you right now, if you leave it like this, it won't work. All right, you got to make sure you flip it. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But again, I just want to show you that. Again, if it's in this format with the numbers on the left, that won't work. These steps won't work. So make sure it's in that form. Letter, one of the signs, number at the end. Just like when we were solving equations, right? When we had stuff like this, like something like that. 12 equals k plus 3. Remember, we took it. We could solve it like that, but we talked about like moving it around. I want to do the same thing with these. But for when we did the equations, it didn't matter if we moved it around. We could still solve it because we didn't have to graph it. Now we have to graph, so we want to make sure we get it in the right order. All right. So put a circle on the number line. So whatever number is after we talked about the format, right? Whenever number comes after your sign, you want to put something there. Whoa. You want to put a dot on that number on the number line. Now the type of dot you're going to put depends on what type of sign you have. And we're going to do that in a second. All right? So you guys already have that written down, which is good. All right. So, if you have, there should be no line underneath here, right, Mr. Hager? Oh, that's it. So if you have less than or greater than, meaning no line underneath, you want to make sure you're going to put an open circle. All right? So use when it has that blank, right, guys? You want to write open circle. So use an open circle. Again, we're just showing you what it looks like. If it's greater than or less than, meaning no line underneath. If there's no line underneath, you want to make sure you leave it. You want to leave an open circle. All right, meaning no line underneath your less than, no line underneath your greater than. All right, so open circle for that. Then obviously, if we have less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, we want to use a closed circle, right? So we have that blank where it says use A, you want to write closed circle.
I think they need to write the symbols in too. I think they equal to's in there.
Oh, guys, for the second one, for the closed circle, you just have less than and greater than. Make sure you put lines underneath. All right. So for the top one, you're fine. For this one, for closed circle, you want to make sure you put less than. You have the less than sign, add a line underneath. You have the greater than sign, put a line underneath. The top one is fine. You don't have to change these ones. Just change the bottom ones. Let's put little lines underneath so you know. All right. Last step. All right. So for step 3, you have a blank, right? You're going to shade the number line with an arrow in the direction the inequality is pointing. So if I had a less than, I'd draw a line coming from my open dot or closed dot going left. If I had greater than, I'd go right. Same thing here, even when it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Whatever way your arrowhead is pointing. My arrowhead's pointing left, draw my line to the left. My arrowhead is pointing right, draw my line to the right. All right? But again, you've got to make sure that it's in the right format. Letter first, sign, number. If it's not, that won't work. If you don't flip this and say, okay, my arrow's pointing to the left, it won't work. You'll graph it incorrectly. All right? So you want to make sure, whenever you're doing these, you want to make sure that the letter always comes first. If you have to flip stuff around, do that. I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. Everybody good with this, step 3? Yes? Yes? I'll give you guys like 10 more seconds. So shade the number line with an arrow in the direction the inequality is pointing. Alright, so now, all we're going to ask you guys to do is just graph these. We're not getting it tomorrow. We're actually going to have to solve them, right? So we might have a number attached to the y and ask you guys to solve them. And like looking ahead in terms of solving them, you're going to solve them the exact same way you solved equations. The only thing that's new is being able to graph them. So this is kind of new to you guys. All right. So first thing I'm going to ask myself is it in the right format? Letter, sign, number. Are we good? Yeah? Letter, sign, number. All right? So now, step 2 says, so we did that. Make sure. Now we're going to put a dot. We're going to determine what type of dot we're going to put. Can somebody tell me?
Closed circle.
Closed where? Nowhere yet, because we don't have numbers. Let's add some numbers in there. Where am I going to put my closed circle, Jake?
At -3.
At -3. Good, so we've done the first 2 steps. Step 1, we didn't have to do anything because it was already in the right format. I didn't have to move anything around. So I'm in the right format, I put my dot. Somebody tell me, what direction, Nigeli, what direction is my arrow going to go? To the left or to the right? To the left, right? Look where the arrow is pointing. The arrow is pointing left. Draw your line going to the left. That's all you have to do. You're done. That's it. Mary, question?
Oh wait, never mind. I see what I did.
Okay, you good now?
Yep.
All right. So again, sometimes guys, on the test, you may get a multiple choice. We'll give you this, all right, and there'll be 4 graphs. You have to pick the right one. Right? Some you may have to graph yourself. Other times you may have to pick the right one based on a multiple choice. All right? Let's put another one. So, someone remind me, what's the first thing we have to ask ourselves when we're doing these inequalities? What's the first thing we have to ask ourselves before we do anything? Ellie?
Letter before.
Letter, sign, number. Do I have that?
No.
No. Numbers on the left, letters on the right. So this is what I'm talking about. You've got to flip it around, because those steps we just gave you, they won't work unless you flip it. So what letter should be first in this problem? X, right? Now this is where you want to pay attention. When I do this, I base it all on I call this like you pancake it, you flip it. Alright? When I look at it, what direction, or what is the arrow pointing at in the original before I pancake it? What direction is it, what thing is it pointing at? Is it pointing at the 2 or pointing at the X? That?
The 2.
Pointing at the 2, right? So I know when I rewrite it, I can put my 2 here. It's pointing at the 2 in the original. I better make sure when I flip it, or when I pancake it, it's pointing at the 2 when I flip it. It's pointing at the 2 here. It's pointing at the 2 when I flip it. I'm flipping the whole thing over. That's where some people make mistakes. Again, just look at it and say, what is it pointing at originally? I want to make sure when I flip it, it's still pointing at whatever it was pointing at in the original. So that's the only thing different from this one and this one, instead of flipping around. All right? Let's put some numbers on here. Next thing, Haley, what am I going to do next? Decide if I'm going to use what? I'm going to use open or close. Open at what number? 2. Open at 2. Brady, what direction is my arrow going to go? Right or left? Right, yes, it's pointing right in this. Pointing right there. Now, if I went ahead and graphed this, following the rules I talked about, the arrow's pointing left. I would have had an open circle here. My line would have been going left. Doesn't work. That's why you've got to make sure you flip it. So what this means is, guys, for this one, the top one, every number, including -3. So every number including -3 to the left of it on the number line would work as a solution for y. Every single one. Including -3. Why do I say including -3? Why is -3 included in that solution set? It has something to do with the sign. Aaron?
Because it's against the close symbol, so it's greater than.
Yeah, greater than, or that's a less than, or equal to. So the number you plug in here could be less than. So like if I picked like -5, yes, that's less than -3. But I could also put -3 because it's equal to. Because remember, that sign means less than or equal to. That's why I shaded in. That's why we go, well, probably like, well, what does it matter if it's shaded or not? That's why we do it. We shade it to know that that number is included in our solution set. We leave it open to say, nope, it's not included in that solution set. Because this is just a greater than. Alright? So every number to the right of 2 would work as a solution for x. 5, 100, 1062. They would all work as a solution for x. That's your solution set. Alright? Alright. So this one, is it in the right format? Yeah, we got letter, sign, number. Alright? Let me add some numbers here. Yusuf, what do I have to decide now? So I know it's in the right format. What do I have to decide now?
Which way it's pointing.
Before that. Open or close? What do you think? Open, right? At what number? 0. Open at 0. Now, Yusuf, what can we do?
Which direction it's going.
What direction is it going?
Right.
Right. So every number to the right of 0 would work as a solution for this. Remember, we draw it as an arrow because that arrow goes on forever. Alright? Would my solution set include 0? Would my solution set include 0? Yes or no, Savannah? No, right? Because there's no line underneath, and it's not shaded in. Right, so it would not include 0. Alright? So again, this stuff all asking you to do, no solving yet, but it's asking you to graph. Now tomorrow we'll do some solving, right? But at the end of it, your answers are going to look like this. Again, we'll try to do the same thing, get y, get x alone, right? When we solve tomorrow. So the process of graphing, open, close, direction it's pointing, that's all the same. And again, tomorrow, when we solve them, it's going to be the exact same process as we used in solving equations. We'll just treat that inequality sign as an equal sign. Okay, whatever I do on this side of the inequality sign, I'll do on this side of the inequality sign. Just like when you have an equation. The steps are the same way. And this process is really the only new thing for you guys, is being able to graph it. Alright? So you want to finish up? Yeah, you finish up. Did you have the other pen?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is kind of the opposite of what you just did. Okay. So when Mr. Roy did these, they gave you a problem. They had you come up with the graph. Well, now they're giving you the graph. You've got to come up with the original inequality. All right. So what's the form that an inequality has to be in again? Can someone remind me what Mr. Roy said? Yeah, Matt?
Letter, sign, number.
Letter, sign, number. So first thing we probably want to do is pick a letter. It doesn't matter what letter you use. Pick any letter. So, how about Dylan? Can you give me a letter?
H.
H. All right, so we're going to use H. And now I'm going to look and try to decide on my sign. All right? So that's where you look at the circle. Is it
Circle
open?
and direction.
Yep. Circle and direction. So, is the circle open or is it closed in A?
Closed.
It's closed. So that tells me whatever symbol I use, it has the line under it. It has the equal to. Now I have to look at the direction. Okay? As long as we set it up so that it's letter on the left, you just have to pick the direction it's pointing. So which way is this one pointing? To the right? Yeah. So what kind of symbol is that going to be, Ryan?
What direction is the arrow going to point towards? The left or the right?
Right.
Good.
Yep, it's going to point right. So what symbol is that, Savannah? Greater than. So I've got my greater than, closed circle means or equal to. So H is greater than or equal to. And then what number are we going to put in, Miguel?
48.
48. So if you had to just explain what numbers are a solution there, someone asked you, just explain it simply. What numbers are a solution for H?
Every number.
Except 0.
Not every number except 0. Like 10 is not a solution there. And that's a number that's not 0. So what does that mean? What numbers are answers to this problem? Yep.
Every number above 48.
Close, very close. Yep.
Like every number includes like 48 or both. Like including 48.
Yes. Every number 48 and above. So you can include 48. Okay. Let's
Or
look at
every
this.
number greater than 48, including 48.
Okay. So what's the first thing we have to decide on this one?
Maybe it's open or closed.
Even before that.
Oh my god.
Yep.
What variable is?
Yeah, we gotta pick a variable and we're gonna put it on which side?
The last
The left side. So why don't you pick a variable this time, Don?
E.
E. Alright, we're gonna use E. Now we want to look at the circle, look at the direction, and that's gonna tell you the symbol. Alright? What kind of circle do I have this time, Nicole? Open. So that tells me whatever symbol I use, it's not going to have the line under it. Should the symbol point left, or should it point to the right? Yep, it's going to point left. And what's the name when it points left? Paulo? What's the name of the symbol when it points left? Yep, less than. So E is less than what number? Gigi? 52. So what numbers are solutions to this problem? How would you describe all the numbers you're allowed to use for E? Yep.
Any number less than 52.
Yeah, exactly. Any number below 52. Can you use 52? Does it say we can equal 52? No. It says E is less than 52. Right? It's like if I said, you asked me your test grade, and I say, well, I looked at it quick, I think it's less than an 80. Less than an 80 means it's not an 80. You're not getting an 80. Less than means maybe you got a 79 or lower. Right? But you're less than, so you didn't get the actual number. It has to be below. Right. Okay, any questions on that?
No, sir.
All right, so as Mr. Roy said, tomorrow we'll get into solving. Okay, when you've got a number next to the variable. Okay, so a couple just quick reminders. So tonight we'll have a worksheet on 2.1.
And we'll put those notes away, so you'll do some practice problems.
Reference sheet, we're going to try to get that up online by Wednesday, okay, on Google Classroom. Test on Friday, and this is the second to last test for the term. So it's kind of crazy, but when you're here next academic week, that's the last week of the academics. You still have a shock week after that, but that's the last week of academics for the term.
Oh, that's what
All right, so we've got some practice ones. So we're going to give you guys a few minutes to try these.
Yes, sir.